questions we need to ask ourselves is, why do we exist as a church? The reason why we say that is there's all kinds of images of the church. And one of the problems of this image is we can get caught up into the thought that we're here for the people who are good. But we're a church of sinners, and we're here for the sinners. And therefore, we're not here for the people who are good. We're actually here for the people who are not good. I mean, Jesus made it very clear over and over again that the people who were doing everything right, who had hardened their hearts to anything he had to say because they believed they were doing everything right, and they didn't want to hear them in themselves any call to change. Those were the people Jesus says, I'm not here for you. I'm here for the people who are walking around and saying, why am I doing everything wrong? Because those are the people who Jesus teaches maybe aren't doing anything wrong at all. Let me give you a good example here. Let's take the person who just doesn't make it in school. How does he manifest himself? Let's take a look. I didn't put that here, and I don't know who did, but I'm sure it wasn't a Harvard graduate. I'm sure it was someone who is angry and bitter about what he experiences at school. When I look at this, I think of the video from Metallica called The Unforgiven. It's a perfect portrayal of the person who happens to suffer from a learning disability, and no one is listening to him. And so he has a lot to offer, but what he has to offer is not accepted within the academic environment. And so in the academic environment, he feels stupid, he feels oppressed, he feels depressed, he feels like he doesn't fit. And eventually this bitterness grows within himself until he turns to the people who treat him this way and say, I dub you unforgiven. That's a bitterness that happens. And I wonder if the person who wrote this might be such a person. If this person has fallen through the cracks, if this person is the kind of person who just isn't fitting in society, then who's here for that person? And the answer is nobody. That's the problem if our church is only ministering to the people who make it and the people who are good. There is the reality of Father Greg Boyle. Father Greg Boyle runs Homeboy Industries, which you can find through Google or any search engine. Runs Homeboy Industries in LA. And what it's designed to do is to employ the gang members. And let's face it, the people who fall through the cracks oftentimes end up in gangs. And he employs gang members that they can get out of gangs. His slogan, nothing stops a bullet like a job. I've been out there. And one of the things that really hit me strongly is how much there are certain elements of the community that hate what he does. They don't like anyone who's there trying to help the gang members because they're afraid that they're going to enable the gang members. The reality is there are such people that are needed to bring gangs and others, those members in gangs, caught up, broken, and end up in these organized crime elements that are designed there just for that age group, out of them, that they may have lives that lead them to be everything they're called to be, lead them to humanize them. And gangs don't do that. And so Homeboy Industries does exactly that. As a matter of fact, when we want to buy anything, I always say, let's check to see if Homeboy Industries does it. And if Homeboy Industries does it, then maybe we'll purchase from them. It's one of the issues we need to look at. How is it that we serve the people who fall through the cracks? There are plenty of people out there who are going to work with the rich and the middle class and the established. But there's got to be people out there who are working with those who aren't making it. And our church has to mostly focus on them. When I told you the story of Homeboy Industries, one of the stories that pops into mind is when I was working with some gang members in a city just outside of Boston. We watched a police officer enable, and not so much enable, but escalate a gang member with the interest of watching him respond so we could put him in jail. It was actually kind of a framing operation that went, where they wanted to get this other particular guy off the street. Yeah, all right, he was in a gang, yeah, caused trouble. His most trouble was he beat on rival gang members. Not a good idea, but that's what he did. And he was stabbed, and he dealt with a lot of the issues in his being stabbed. Well, they found a way to get him off the street by accusing him of committing armed robbery, which was not his MO. As it turns out, the charges were dropped. But in the meantime, they tried to put him in jail, and they tried to put his friends in jail. And one of the things they did is they worked to escalate him. So this one police officer walked up to him and just pushed his buttons. Fortunately, he did it in front of myself and a lawyer. As soon as the police officer left, we walked up to him, calmed him down, and the lawyer looked at him and says, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go home, you're going to sit in your house, and you're going to stay there all night, because he's looking for you. And he's waiting for you to walk outside that house so that he can arrest you and put you in jail. So you mind your own business, stay in the house, and then come back when you need to come back later, and stay away from him, and if possible, stay out of the city. He's doing fine now, never got arrested, and the police officer didn't end up arresting him because he didn't act up because we were there. But that happens all the time. And the question is, if we're not there for these people, then these people end up in jail. And you know who pays for it? You do. If we have people, for example, if you have the church on the street, you don't pay for the church on the street. You certainly don't pay for the Catholic Church. God forbid you give the Catholic Church any tax money, and we don't want it. There are some that do, I don't. You don't pay for the Catholic Church. And when people are the church working on the streets and working to help the people who everyone is afraid of, then lives change. And that's what we do. We change people's lives, and we do it without putting in people in prison for $40,000 a year. God bless you.